All right, and we're live. So welcome everybody. Here we have Omawale Asafo, my brother, the Black Academic, my sister Ama Akata, and most importantly, right now we have the Minister Clemson Brown, who's here to share his wealth of knowledge with us. And we really appreciate you being here with us today, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you.
For those of y'all who don't know who Minister Clemson Brown is, Minister Clemson Brown is the founder of Transatlantic Productions. That's where I know him from, but he is also uh and I wrote the word down, but a documentarian, a very important documentarian that has definitely changed my life. Actually, I know just from speaking about it previously, Clemson Brown, you've changed all of our lives.
Thank
Uh,
you.
and I know
Definitely.
for me, you have opened up a wealth of information of ancestral wisdom to me that I wouldn't have been able to receive otherwise. And for that, I am the most appreciative because it has shaped my life in such a profound way. So I want to say thank you for that.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for everybody, I know Mr. Clemson Brown. I know you haven't necessarily got the chance to check out our Instagram lives, but we always like to start off with setting the intention to have like positive confirmation. I'm not positive confirmation, positive conversations with one another to make sure that we're having productive conversation. And we always like to start off by thanking our Creator, God, the universe, Jah, the energy, the source, whatever people practice in their bedroom, their house. We want to pay respects to our Most High, and we also like to pay thanks to our ancestors, those that we know and those that we don't know, those that are prominent, that have been well known, but those that didn't even get the chance to make it on the ship over to the States. And then we also always like to thank the people that tap in with us and view our lives and have conversations with us, because without them, we know when this would be unproductive. So, and again, thank you for just joining us.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Hmm.
So I know behind the stage, most people didn't get to see or hear what we were talking about, but we started off with talking how you said that we are at war. And for some people, they may not fully understand or be able to grasp what exactly we may mean when we say we're at war. But I know that you were just now talking about the spiritual aspect of it all, and would love for you to continue where you were left off at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let me go back and kind of explain when I say we were at war.
Yes, sir.
Um, there is the Africans not only created the 365-day year calendar, they created the 26,000 year calendar, which is called the zodiac. Now, I can't go into all the dimensions of the zodiac, um, but I know that it's divided into houses or seasons, very much like the calendar is divided into seasons. So when the March on Washington in 1995, when you had 1 million black men showing up, um, and I was down there like the day before, and so like 5 a.m. in the morning, I was already out on the street, uh, and there was nobody there. I mean, it was just like, oh, these brothers ain't showing up, because I didn't see any of them. And then the moment light began to shine, and I guess maybe it was like 6 brothers started coming from everywhere at the same time. It was just looked like they was coming up out of the ground. And they just kept coming and coming and coming. To I'm sure we had over 1 million people there. So that night, I turned on one of the channels, but Tom Brokaw was on, and he gave his analysis of the Million Man March. Then he said, "Oh," at the end of his analysis, he said, "By the way, a new star was seen in the skies tonight. I wonder if it has anything to do with the Million Man March." So when I heard that, it just struck me that they know something I don't know. So I jumped on the phone and I called Dr. Charles Finch down at Morehouse College. And I told him what Tom Brokaw had said. And he said, "Oh, yes, that's Kephas. Kephas stands for the Ethiopian star. It stands for the rise of the black man." So I said, "Does that mean that the black man has risen?" So he said, "No, it's a protest. There will be many." And you had Obama as president of the United States. Yes, thank you. And that's a protest. You've had just a bunch of things happening. The alignment of stars and the Kephas becoming the brightest star in the heavens, which means that Kephas has set. Uh, and that happened, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. All these stars lined up, and you really couldn't tell uh, which was which because they were all aligned together. But when they pull apart, Kephas was now the brightest star in the heavens. Kephas represent the energy of the black man, which
Okay.
means the 26,000 year cycle has occurred. And we've been through that cycle because we are the chosen, we are the first. And understanding our relationship with that oneness. And even though I've said these things many times before, in order for you to really understand them, you have to go over them until you internalize them.
Yes,
When you breathe in the air that blows through the trees. You breathe it out. The trees breathe it in. They, there's a synergistic relationship between everything. Um, you drink water. It's not just the water that runs in the ocean. It's running through you. Your body is 72% water. That water, you drink it, it passes through you. You go pee, it keeps running. It doesn't stop. You eat the earth, every element, the gold, the magnesium, the diamonds, everything in the earth is in you. All of the minerals and etc. That's why understanding our biology and how that biology is related to our health through nature itself uh, gives us an insight of how to stay healthy. And you can see from looking at our history, we lived for hundreds of years. The Bible talks about Methuselah and all of that, but we had perfect diet, uh, we had proper thinking, um, and we lived at a time when we ate right and everything. So everything that is one with nature and gives us balance and harmony is what our lifestyle was. So we grew the fruits of peace and balance and harmony because that is the way we lived. And we lived that because that was the season within nature that brought this particular way of life about. So, out of that and having the oneness with the universe, we were able to develop mathematics and everything else. And we developed the stories that told these stories in a way that our people and our culture could reflect nature itself. Say, for an example, we talk about Set and Horus and
Mhm.
Isis, for an example. But it is the story of good and evil.
Yeah, right, right.
Set, who was the opposite of Osiris, who was um, born perfect and good. Now, the Bible will reflect that as Job, having been born a perfect and upright man. And the Bible story, which is all right. I mean, it reflects the truth. Um, Says that the devil, Seth, was walking to and fro the land, and he showed up when all of the children of the Most High came together. And the Lord said, "Well, Job, where you been? Where you coming from there?" And he said, "Well, I've been up and down the land looking at, all of your people."
Mhm.
And God said, "Did you consider myself my son Job, a just and upright man who was Osiris, who was going about teaching people how to farm? And farming is not just plowing the land. Everything is involved in farming because you bring the people together." So he was bringing people together and uh, helping them organize the culture and everything else. And he was well loved because he was like the Pharaoh. He was a king in a way. So Job said, "Yeah." The devil said, "Yeah, I was looking at Job." He said, "You know what I found out? Job only does this shit because you got a hedge around him. You won't let nothing uh, touch him. You give him everything, you know, you protect him, everything." So he said, "But if you take that hedge out around Job, I'll make him curse you to your face." So God said, "Huh? Really? All right. You can touch everything on Job but his life." Now, that's what happened to African people. I like to say that we were the people who were blessed, who built pyramids, who built the Sphinx, who
Mhm.
lived long life, who had it all going, everything, sheep and everything else. The Creator blessed us with it. But the devil said, "Let me have him. Just let me have him. I'll make him curse you to your face." So here comes Seth now. Uh, and he made a coffin uh, so he could trick uh, Asa, so he could trick Isis into the coffin. And so they went around. Anybody who fit the coffin would be theirs. But it didn't fit anybody but Asa because it was made for him. And when he got in the coffin, Seth closed the coffin, cut the coffin up into 14 pieces, and threw it in the Nile Valley. Now that's what has happened to us. We've been scattered all over the place, cut up into so many different people. We don't even know who we are.
Right.
We've been through everything Satan could pull out of his war chest. He's used on us. But the season of our return is here. The energy that Tom Brokaw was talking about when he said a new star was found, that energy is the energy of Kephas. That's our rise and our time again. So we're in the process of being restored, just like God restored uh, Joseph, restored Job, and gave him more than he had in the beginning, if that was possible, because he had so much. He was, one with the universe in consciousness, which means as a group of people, when we become conscious of our oneness with the universe, we can call into being anything,
Yes,
because
sir.
the universe is all there is. All of the energy is from the universe. And everything is a part of that energy. And our thoughts are just like the word. Uh, Africans created the spoken word, but they didn't do it alone. Nature did it. Nature had to prepare the larynx, so that we have a voice box and all of that. But the consciousness was brought through man. Of course, the uh, the grunting of whatever vibrations made the noise that indicated that this was a lion. In the beginning, it was symbolic, and so the symbolic image was created from the image of space and time, and we gave it a name, as we gave everything a name. And that's why when you call things by their rightful name, you get a different vibration coming from that uh, from that symbol, from that organ. And that's what we did in the beginning. We named things. Now the European has changed our name,
Right.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and has changed most of the names through language that we name things. So our right now, our job is to restore things as the Creator gave them to us, because we're one with the Creator. Therefore, we have that ability. It's in us. And this is why I keep going over to show you that you are just a composite of the elements that make the universe: the wind, the earth, the sun, uh, the rain. That's what you are. And our ancestors would take these elements and show you how they themselves come together. For an example, they would say that Shu is air, Geb is earth, um, and they'll show you how Shu and Geb's uh, came together and produced children. I think it was four pairs of Odu. But they make these stories so you can see very clearly that we came directly out of the universe. Um, and so everything is there in our uh, in 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 our language and in our understanding of how things were created, and in the principles that our ancestors brought forth, so that we could keep a balance. So this it's a fantastic time for us. So when I say we are at war, just like Seth cut uh, the body of Cyrus up into 14 pieces,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it reminds me of Brother Floyd. Brother Floyd, who was killed by the policeman with his knee on his neck. I never heard any anybody being killed call on a mother until Floyd, and he called on his mother. And boy, that sister showed up mad as hell. She was just like uh, she was just like Isis. Isis showed up and she found all the pieces of her husband, her lover, her king, her God, and put them back together except the phallus, which they said a catfish ate, which is why some religions don't like bottom feeders. Um, but at any rate, uh, she couldn't find the phallus, and she began to hover uh, over Asar and 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 flap her wings and began to draw energy from him. First, she put energy in him. Now I'm talking about this badass sister. You know, I'm just gonna say it that way because that's how bad she is. And she gave life as life comes through the woman. And her job right now is to do the same thing um, because a set has cut the brother lion into 14 pieces and scattered them all over the planet. And we're trying to get it back together, but you know, you can't put it back together without Sister Isis. And
Yep.
so she began to flap her wings and her spirit. And you have to understand that the woman has so much power that and in our history, black men were not afraid of black women. Um, they saw it as the yin and the yang, that it was what made them whole, just as the brother, and you see it worked out in nature. Um, Now, I'm telling some stories that tell all the time, but these stories are important to really understand uh, how we can see how things are displayed in nature, and yet they're displayed the same way in our relationship with nature. Um, if you take the female lion, the lioness, and you get that group, of course, um, they hunt in groups, and they bad, and they do all the killing. And then Brother Lion, who generally goes up on the hill and take a nap, but he sees everything. But he don't be trying to run down the antelope, all that shit. He leaves that to sisters, the lioness to do. But when they catch the antelope, he comes down and gives a little grunt, and everybody moves back and let him eat to his fill. Now they say, you say that ain't fair. I mean, he didn't run down nothing. Now he want to come and be the first to eat up everything. And they, the lioness, let him have his way. But what you generally don't consider is that the hyena, which is the enemy of the lioness, and will kill the lioness because the hyenas hunt in groups too, and their leader is a female. Is a
Mm.
female hyena, and she's bad. Um, so the lioness can't handle the hyena. But Brother Lion's sitting up there on the hill looking down, and he sees what's going on, and he gives out a roar that you can pick up with a seismic wave. Uh, you can pick up the seismic waves in the earth 7 miles away. And he's saying to everybody, you know, I'm coming to kick some ass. And when he comes down the hill, everybody gets in the wind, especially the female hyena, who is the one who's responsible for taking out Sister Lioness. He goes straight for her, and he gonna catch her. And when he catch her, he's gonna break her neck. He's gonna bite her neck and kill her. And it'll take that group of hyenas 3 years to prepare another leader. So after brother kills her, he goes on back up to the hill and lay down again. So the lioness, they give him his due, his balance, because he is their God. So, brother man, one of the things sisters have a hard time doing is seeing the brother as capable and worthy. And you don't find too many sisters ready to call the brother their God, um, because they don't see him as their hero. Because you watch television all the time, and you see the white boy who always has a gun. I had some young people live next door to me. Um, I was telling them that they be calling people all these names and so forth. And he said to me, but Minister Brown, you are not in the time of things. You know, you ain't nothing out here without a gun. And if you watch television, you'll see that all the heroes got a gun. You can't, how you going out here and you want to be trying to deal with these young people and you don't have a gun and you don't understand why they got a gun. They got a gun because all heroes have a gun, because that's what's projected, and it is projected. Uh, if the white boy don't have that gun on his side, uh, the brother would kick his ass every trip. So they all got guns and they fight to get bigger guns and to maintain weaponry superiority, because they know it's your time. They know it's our time. And they know the energy is not in their favor, because on the pendulum of good and evil, and I'm just going to use Donald Trump for an example, that represents pure, unadulterated evil. Now, that's what it represents to me, because when I see him pardon people who were sentenced, who were convicted for killing women and children, and they were convicted, and Donald Trump comes and gives them a pardon so that they can kill again if that's what they so want to do. And then he goes around and look for all the black folks he can rush to the electric chair to kill them. I don't have a problem with seeing him as evil and representing self. So the stand that we have to make right now is one of righteousness, to get back into our ancestral understanding of our oneness with the universe. It's our time. And that means that we are to manifest in the earth uh, balance and harmony and justice and rightness. And that's in us.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us would be afraid to stand up for that. But the sisters, um, they, uh, the enemy tries to use our women against us. And that goes all the way back to slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are like the lioness um, in many ways, but without the brother, the hyena is going to kick ass. So we have to understand that we have to do this together. We got to raise this family together. I mean, there's just so many negative aspects of the male energy that I could talk about. But the positive aspects is that we have to come together. We really got to come together. And I'm I'm just in love with black women because I know what they are capable of, and they're capable of bringing this family back together. But their focus must be on their God,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and understand that because when they become the counterpart to the white boy, that is just it's really just death. Even though a lot of people tell me it's love. If you in love, you can't, you can't prescribe love. People fall in love, and you know that's sufficient. But I, I've given you my insight on that. That's the way we started out. So
Okay. Yeah, I like it so far. So we're currently in our book club. We're currently reading "The Destruction of Black Civilization," and he does talk about how this is for those that may not know. This is by Chancellor Williams, and he does talk about how we've fallen at times when we've claimed this so-called brotherhood with our enemy. And then we've also had times where in the past miscegenation led to turning where it ended up leading from a matrilineal system. It was ended up used as a weapon to use invaders. Their people would come in with their princes or their heirs to the thrones, and then they would just marry one of the Black Kingdom's women that was the heir to the throne that was in their matrilineal system that they had. And then by doing so, they would essentially move their people into the Black kingdoms that we had historically in the past when we're talking about like Kemet in Egypt and Kush. And so, from what you're saying, in my opinion, I kind of feel like it relates to what our great historians like John Henrik Clarke has said, where we don't have any friends. You have no friends. Like it's basically us with our women and our women with us. As a men. And I like to just ask, as far as we're just mentioning John Henrik Clarke in our history, and I know that you're a documentarian, so you have over 30,000 hours worth of history and knowledge that people could check out on your page. I'm gonna give you a shout out right there just for anybody that does not know about your page. It's Transatlantic Productions, so please, if y'all can, go subscribe. Go ahead and hit that bell so that y'all get the notifications when Minister Clemson Brown uploads a video, because it's always some knowledge that is for our people. I kind of wanted to ask, as far as history, what is your opinion on in your experience with John Henrik Clarke and Ivan Van Sertima, and how have your relations with their work or them as people influenced you?
well, we have about 20,000 hours in our archive.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
you said 30. I just want to. We
Okay.
didn't get now, all of those brothers were friends of mine.
Yes, sir.
Um, Dr. Clark is our premier historian, and nobody tells a story like Dr. Clark. And his memory was superb, and he had about 40,000 books in his library. And Dr. Clark was a humble man, and he could talk with anybody because he would say he only disputed or argued, whichever one he used, with his use. All others he taught, and that's pretty much what he meant. So it's hard to beat the teachings of Dr. John Henry Clark. He was instrumental in Africa. He was interested in Africa and would go to Africa, particularly Ghana. Matter of fact, in Nkrumah, which was the first president of Ghana after colonialism, invited a lot of the African Americans because Nkrumah was taught here in the U.S. And so he knew Dr. Clark and others. He was particularly fond of the Black Star, Marcus Garvey, and that is over the interest to the field where the military does its parade and everything. The Black Star had and Marcus Garvey Jr. was installed as a king in Ghana in one of the villages in which Marcus Garvey traced his heritage. So Dr. Clark went to Ghana and worked with Kwame Nkrumah as well. Dr. Van Sertima, he was unbelievable, impeccable in his research. He was from one of the islands. Is it Guyana? I think Dr. Van Sertima was from Guyana. So I used to travel with him when he went to Mexico doing some of the research on They Came Before Columbus, which he documents that the Africans came here about 900 BC to the Americas, and they were the foundation of the Homage people, which were some of the first. The Omax was one of the mother cultures here in the Western Hemisphere, but that was formed by ancient Africans out of Egypt, and so I used to just enjoy traveling with him in his research, in proving that blacks were in the Americas before Columbus. That we were here about 900 BC. And he did work on blacks in Europe, blacks in Asia. Just phenomenal amount of work that he did. Dr. Ben, the same thing. Dr. Ben introduced us to Egypt. And one Sunday I was at the House of Lord Church. I was ordained in the House of Lord Church under Reverend Daughtry, who was the point man for the Black United Front. And he was not there this particular Sunday that Dr. Ben came, and he had asked me to do the service. So I looked out and saw Dr. Ben sitting in the audience. And after the sermon was over, I saw Dr. Ben getting up out of his seat and heading up to the pulpit. So I figured I had done a really good job. And maybe he was coming to join the church. So when he got up there, he put his hand out and I shook it. And when I took his hand, he grabbed me by the hand and pulled me close to him and looked me right in the eye and said, Minister Brown, why don't you stop lying to these people? I said, what? And he said, you ought to come with me to Egypt and learn the truth, and then you can come back here and teach. I said, well, when you going? I was humble enough. I wasn't going to challenge him. And he told me August. So when August came, I went to Egypt with him. And for the next 9 years, every year I went to Egypt with Dr. Ben, up and down the Nile. And ultimately, I left the church preaching out of the Bible. I mean, that wasn't the only thing, but that was a major reason I left, that I could see that the elements of Christianity was in the Bible, elements that came from our people, but it 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 wasn't teaching us the truth of our history and the oneness of the universe. In fact, it said that you needed to come out of yourself to find the creator. You need to come out of yourself and you need to bow yourself down on your knees to a fellow named Jesus. So my thing was, how can I come out of myself and find God through somebody else when God is in me?
Yes, sir.
And the only way I'm going to find the creator is to find him in me, because that's where he is. And if I come, and I'm saying he, which is a misnomer, the creation is both male and female, because you have to have both the male and female energy to be whole. Um, so if I was going to pray to somebody, I'd pray to my mother, who is dead, but who I knew personally, and I knew loved the ground I walked on. Now, this fella Jesus, I didn't know him. I still don't know him outside of the figments of somebody's mind in the story that they make up in the Bible, which is a late book written by um, wow, I can't even think of the name. But uh, we have to really go into ourselves
Agreed.
and become one again.
I do have a question for you, Minister. Um, how did your trip with Dr. Ben inform and change how you ministered when you came back? Because all that you're preaching right now is it's founded on some valid points, and I know that churches are very westernized Bible based, right? So how did you How did you go about that?
Well, a brother by the name of Walter Williams wrote a
Mm-hmm.
book called The Historical Origins of Christianity. He also did a book, The Historical Origins of Islam. And he was a friend of mine. And he used to come here and stay with us um, from time to time. He lived in Chicago. Uh, his work opened me up to, um, after the Roman period, or right there at the Roman period, um, when um, when the Greeks came into Egypt and how they wanted to be worshipped like the
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh, because in order to guide or lead the Egyptian people, you had to be a priest. And so they wanted to be, well, Alexander the first wanted to be worshipped as the Pharaoh. And Walter gets into how ultimately uh, the Romans closed down a lot of the temples, but they found a temple that would agree to make Lagi I, which was a Roman emperor, image into a god ceremoniously, and they took Apis, and they took the characteristics of Apis, the bull, and Osiris, uh, and made uh, Lagi one into a god ceremoniously with those attributes. So the uh, he becomes uh, the god of the underworld, resurrection, um, all, and he goes through all of that, even who wrote that Bible and when they wrote it. And you can find that on our website. I'm pretty sure it's there. And you'll get really a great understanding. So that um, um, interviewing Walter and studying his work, um, I began to get further and further away from uh, preaching the way that when I first was ordained, my mother came to my ordination service. And the first thing I did uh, after the service was to go back to her house and take that great big picture of that white Jesus off the wall, throw it down on the floor, and stomp on it. And my family said that they had ordained the devil. Uh, so I had to tell her that, no, ma, I'm going to replace this. I got a picture for you, which I had painted myself, of a black
Mm-hmm.
Christ. So I replaced it with a black Christ. And oddly enough, it was enough for her, basically
Nice.
because I painted it and I was an artist and I did a good job. And that was enough for her. It was her son. And so she accepted my ordination with the changes from white to black. So I never had any problem with mama.
With that. That reminds me of John Henrik Clark's short film he has with Wesley Snipes. You might have heard of it, probably. I don't know if you have, but basically, it was a story where saxophone player or some sort was the principal of a school, and a kid got like there was like an art contest in the school, and it was back in the day when white people were more um, in your face about their racism, and one of the people who was head of the school district came to the school and said, "We like your school because they followed regulations of how they wanted Southern schools to go." So they created this art contest for anyone in the school to create 3 pieces of art that would be the head of the space. And one of the young black boy, painted a black Jesus. And that was like the kind of the drama of the whole film. So that's interesting that you said that you gave your mom like a painted black Jesus for a home.
Yeah, that film by Wesley Snipes, The Great and Mighty War, is an
Mm-hmm.
awesome piece of work, or
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. So everybody should look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been showing my students pieces of it in the meantime, to be honest. So
Nice. What age are your students, Zach, by the way?
I
Huh?
teach first through 10th. So I'm trying, like they are actually still getting their exposure to tap videos as well. But I know we also had a question as far, and I know Jalen could probably ask it a little better than I can. But as far as, because we're very big on the importance of one, paying homage to our elders, but also listening to our elders and bridging those intergenerational gaps. Because as mentioned before, we understand y'all have wisdom there with our youth. Like, we can match our energy with y'all wisdom, and we can really make a lot of things happen for our people. So I kind of, Jalen, you mind hopping? 'Cause I don't recall exactly how to phrase
Yeah,
the
yeah.
question. I know you took it
Um,
down.
so more or less, the question is like, what is the role? What do you think the role of elders in our community should be like? And like,
Mm.
what is the active physical role of elders, and what does that look like? And what relationships should we be trying to form with our elders?
Well, elders are the pathway to the Creator.
I like that.
Um, we came through our elders, and there's only one blood. The Creator did not make uh, a lot of different bloodlines. All the blood really comes out of the African blood, which
Yeah.
is what makes humanity all relatives, um, cousins, or whatever you want to call them, because there's just the African blood that flows through all of our veins. Ancestors, because we look at each other and you see the physical body, but this physical body is going to die. It's it's like birth. It's like being in the womb. When your time comes, you coming out of the womb, and you're going to start an entire existence that you didn't have in the womb. Um, so death, you leave this physical body behind. You put it in the ground for most of us. Some of us burn it, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of life. Life continues in the spiritual world.
Mhm.
So you might not be able to go back into your mother's womb, and you certainly can't go back into that corpse, but the spirit is still there, and you can communicate with it, and you should use that as a guide, because they can help you. The Africans believe that, and they did homage to their ancestors so that their ancestors would remain alive, not only in their mind and family, but most of them had special place, a tree in the backyard or someplace where they may bury the umbilical cord or so forth, but it was a sacred space. And the ancestors would often come back to them through that special place. And so they might gather around it, they may have a ceremony and so forth, because they believe that you keep your ancestors alive as long as you call their name and made them a part of your being. You know, you might put down the favorite foods at time, but you certainly did libation to them, pour them a little bit of wine or palm oil, or not palm oil, but palm wine and whatever. So these things, I think, help. I have an altar. I keep an altar, and I keep the pictures of my siblings who were passed on, my mother and father, and all. And when I have difficulties, I certainly convert with them and ask them for their assistance. And I've had some strange things to happen in my many journeys. And I'm trying to write my story. I gotta get it written because it's just a dynamic, interesting journey. And it's been mostly extremely happy and prosperous. So
I'll definitely be looking out for that.
I just wanted to say this real quick. My mic was off when I was saying it, but you've played a huge role for a lot of us to be able to hear our ancestors because of your, collection of sounds. This one person was talking about how when you're in nature, we had different sounds that would activate our DNA or activate certain consciousness within us. And your approach to the work, your technical approach, which is recording and accumulating, creating a library of sorts in which we can have access to people before us, is phenomenal. And just thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. But I've been blessed, so I don't have any negative. I ain't mad at nobody. So it's been a good journey. And some of the things the Creator has allowed me to experience have been, I used to didn't talk about them. I talk about them now. But I didn't talk about them because I knew nobody would believe them. Now I talk about them because they confirm that this journey is strange, and it's so short, so that whatever we want to bring about, we need to drop our buckets where we are now and begin to work very diligently and very forthright and hard on bringing it about. And that brings me in closing back to the war that we're engaged in. white people believe that you win by any means necessary. Okay, Machiavellian. Um, they believe that the biggest gun wins the day. And it was through slavery that they got the money uh, and the time and resources to create the Industrial Revolution. And since the Industrial Revolution, Europeans have not looked back because they continued to move forward uh, through industry and through being able to create the world that they wanted to bring about without them doing the labor, and they've been able to use other people's minds, and especially the African mind, to uh, to do the things that they are doing. But that time is up, and because they are so, um, and I don't want to say because they're so evil, because there's really good and evil on both sides. Some of the things our people do to one another are just bad and evil. And when you watch Black Lives Matter and so forth, you see a lot of white people uh, there. And the world, if it's going to have peace in it, has to be brought together. So we need to be sitting at the table of brotherhood to bring it about through our own experience and culture um, as much as anybody else. We're needed, and our intellect is needed, but we need to be focused. We need to, the war that we have between each other um, needs to be turned into a deeper love. And we'll be all right. We will really be all right, because it is the energy in the universe is in our favor. We just got to harness it. So that's my message. That's what I leave you with.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank
I I'd like to ask just one last question as far as, because we have a lot of in our generation, we understand it's only like a small percentage of people who really decide to consciously join in the struggle of our people, and just like to ask for any advice you would give to any young warriors in our generation, in this 20s generation, maybe 30s in there, and like any advice you would have, understanding like this struggle can be kind of lonely if you're not with other people that kind of get it. Because sometimes it can kind of seem like you're trying to pull a brick wall, and I understand how hard that can be for some people. But we'd just like to ask if you have any insight or any advice or anything just before we head out.
you. You don't need everybody. You just need the group that more or less think like you. Birds together, flock together.
Yes, sir.
And
Ashe.
it's amazing what they can do when you uh, think together and work together. It's absolutely amazing. So, this group that you had tonight, I want to thank each and every one of these brothers and sisters for working together and putting your mind uh, forward um, to bring about the change that we need. That's what we need. Just keep doing it. You'll be amazed at how you will
Yes,
pick
sir.
up people who think like you. They're there, and they're looking for you just like you looking for them. What's
Mm-hmm.
looking for you is what you're looking for.
I like
So,
that.
you know, y'all will find each other.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's
Well,
reassuring.
Okay.
Ikemba Ama Jawabu.
I got
Yeah.
actually got a question for you, Mr. Brown. I would say, well, you've already expressed that Dr. Ben was a huge part of just influencing you and your ascension towards like truth and knowledge. But if you had to give us like a top two or three for yourself, and then also like on your channel, on your YouTube channel, what is a video that you would recommend like everybody has to see this video? If there is one video.
Oh,
um,
so much.
Yeah.
I'm not computer literate. I have an engineer that works for me by the name of Darrell Good, who puts up everything. And I'm trying to learn a little more. I used to know the technology pretty good, but uh, I got away from it. And to say which, um, wow, I don't know. There's so many. I think there's close to 500 tapes up there. And we will put another 500 up there as we go, because
Wow.
there's just so much information. Um,
Wow.
you know, for an example, we took a group to Ghana to the slave dungeon, and there was a sister by the name of Loretta. And when she went into the slave dungeon, um, a spirit took her over when we neared the door of no return. Spirit knocked her down. Um, she was crying. She actually couldn't move, and then other sisters came around her to try to help her, and the spirit would leave her and jump on them. And you had this interplay of spirit running from sister to sister, and
Mm.
they had to go get the priest to come and perform rituals so that they could take the slave dungeon and lay her on the ground in front of the slave dungeon. And then it took a long time. They had to bring her herbs and things to get her back here, because wherever the spirit took her, uh, she couldn't get back by herself. So that's one of the tapes that's there, but everybody is not really ready for that. I mean, I could just go through so many tapes, and my
Mm-hmm.
own personal experience with, just the way I got through college. I used to run 15 miles every morning along the East River and paint. Uh, and I used to get down there like 4 or 5 early in the morning, set my easel up so when the sun came up, the rays of the sun would shine through the trees. So I used to cut down the branches and put them on my easel, which was made out of plywood. and then I would paint it just the way I saw the light hitting. And I still have some of those paintings. Most of them are sold. But this particular morning, a light, one of the stars, started to come down out of the sky. First, it was way up in the sky, and I was looking at it. And I wasn't high, I was smoking or any of that. And it just started to descend, and it started to light around me. And then it started to come down fast, and it frightened me. So I started to run out of the park. But then when I saw how far I had to go, I realized I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't outrun it or anything. So I just stopped and looked up into the light as it was coming down. And the less afraid I got of the light, the slower it got. And then once it got like maybe the Empire State Building, it was further than that up, but it stopped. And all around me was lit up like the sun. And I watched it for maybe 30 seconds or so. And it turned on, it was like a saucer, and it turned on like the end of the saucer, and it started moving away slowly back up into the sky. And then it just zoop, and it was gone. And in my mind, I believed that we would have to be gods in order to beat the white man, because they had tried to lynch me one time. And I had had another spiritual experience that saved my life at that time. And so I said, oh, we're going to have to be gods to beat this white man. That's what the light said to me. So about a week later, we was headed to Vermont. I had an assignment in my African history class to go and interview these two sisters that lived in Vermont. They were about 90 years old. And they owned a lot of land, which was like the side of a mountain, and they could have a ski trail. And on the way up there, there was 5 of us. And they got to talking about God, and my wife was with me. And they got to talking about God, and I had just had this experience maybe a week before with the light coming down. So I rose up in the back seat and I said, look, I'm tired of y'all talking about this God. I'm God. And the car left the road, turned around. We were doing maybe 70, 80 miles an hour. Headed, and we was on a downgrade, and headed back up the hill. And this 18-wheeler was coming down, and I could see the guy downshifting the gears, trying to bring the truck under some kind of control. And the car just stopped, and then it backed off the road just as this truck got there. And the wind even blew us over. Not completely over, but that big old steel chain that runs along the road, we got caught in that. And we sit there quietly for a couple of minutes. And then Horn, who was driving the car, started the car. It started. And we drove down to the next exit and came off. And everybody went in and got some coffee. But nobody ever talked about that experience until years later. Everybody's life was changed. But we didn't have to talk about it because everybody knew I wasn't God. And I certainly knew that I wasn't God. At least I wouldn't be God. I might have been a drop of God. But, like the drop of water in the ocean, the drop got every element that's in the ocean. But it's just a drop. It's not going to create a flood or anything. Just a drop of water and dry up.
Right.
So I came to the right.
Depends on the dimension on how you look at it. If you're a cell, then it's a whole sea.
Yes. So I'd had a few of these kind of experiences. So the one in which um, a bunch of white folk trying to lynch me down in Concord, North Carolina, Bible Scotia College. That experience, uh, after I was saved from it, it did not make me afraid of white folk. In fact, it did just the opposite. It took away the fear I had of white folk. And it gave me a feeling of protection. And so it shaped my life in a different way. Uh, so I've had a really, I'm just throwing out a couple of things. So I've had some real interesting phenomena uh, that I went through that kind of shaped the way I thought about things. And uh, it just gave me a feeling not of invincibility. I didn't have the feeling of invincibility, but I didn't have a great deal of fear. Um, and there was always something that rose up in me uh, that made me feel that I'm going to win this thing. I went into boxing. I had 8 fights. I won 6. I lost 2. The 2 that I lost was to 2 brothers, and I didn't really feel like beating them up. Yeah, I'm assuming that I could have did that if I had put my mind to it. But one of them guys was a southpaw, and every time I look around, I was getting up off the floor, and I could never see it coming. And so a couple of weeks later, he saw me. He said, Brown, he said, I'm going to tell you something. This is not the business for you. You better get out of this business. You're going to get killed in the ring. So I said, why you said that? He said, because I can read you like a book. And if I can read you that way, somebody else who really can come along and hurt you. He said, because you telegraph your punches. And I didn't know that because I had been fighting mostly white boys. And when I got in the ring with them, they'd look at me and I'd look at them. We look at each other in the eye, and there was just something would come out of me that they would pick up. And I just knew that I was going to beat their ass. And they knew I was going to beat their ass. And it was just a matter of connection. But this brother told me, he said, you got that one country haymaker, but you will never hit me with that country haymaker because I can see it coming. And every time you get ready to unload, I unload before you. And that's why I can beat you. And that's why others will beat you. So I took his advice and I just quit wanting to fight. I didn't want to fight black folk no more. I didn't want to fight nobody no more. But I was always glad to engage a struggle with a white boy because I didn't feel them. And I, for some reason, just wanted to whoop their ass. And I did.
I think I probably think of a couple of reasons.
Like, like, I got 400 years worth, 500 years worth of reasons.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
So life has been very interesting with me and very rewarding, very blessed. So I know how a king feels. I know how it feels to be looked up to and respected because that has been my experience. And most of the places I went, I had a spiritual guide that just would guide me. And just been an exciting place. I'm trying to figure out how to get all this down in a book form.
Priceless information.
I know I'd have a copy.
Yeah. Please send me a sign. Like I'll pay a little extra on that.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Start with one story at a time. You know, next thing you know, it weaves together to make a book. So,
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. And
mm-hmm.
that's what I'm going to do, I guess.
Yeah,
But
that's what I did. So,
it's been great talking with y'all this morning. Um, it's just been great. It's given me a chance to tell the story. So when I start writing it, I done been over it enough to write it. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I didn't. Would like to ask. 'Cause I know I told you about 8:30 ish. I don't. I know how you were eating, and I didn't want to pass over to your bedtime or anything like for any of us out here. But I like to just appreciate you for coming on. Thank you for everything. I don't know if anybody else might want to ask just one more question. If you have the time for one more question.
Okay, what is the question?
It would just, Brother Ikemba, if you wanted to ask yours, if
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is in regards to I was in the back of the studio listening, and you were talking about matrilineal societies. I think you may have mentioned matriarchy. My question is, what's the difference between matriarchal societies that existed in Africa and patriarchy? And moving forward, do we want to create those type of societies, or should there not be like a dichotomy? I guess my question is like, what type of structures should we have in our social system, like patriarchy, matriarchy, or we don't need either one of those?
Um, I think dialogue is critical because there is probably, I know in the churches that I go into, I count like 7 women to every man. So either we will become satisfied with black women marrying white men and changing the race. If you look at some of the uh, pictures of black troops, they were, or if you look at the pictures of black folk right after emancipation, black people were black people. I mean, we were we were we were several shades darker than what the average black person is today. So with 7 women to every man, we're going to have to either look at some form of polygamy, some form of group family hood, or we're going to have to accept um, losing our family uh, by mixing it in with the European. Um, because the Europeans uh, understand that the black woman is the most educated woman here in America. And as far as getting things done, you can't have a better helpmate than sister. You just can't do it. So there are a lot of these white boys are looking for a black woman um, because they feel they can use her and own her. Um, and one of the brothers said to me that you don't include the love factor. Well, maybe they're in love with each other. But I know I don't, I can't factor that in the same way. Because when you're at war, you're at war. Um, and I know we're at war, and I know dividing the black family is one of the key components of defeating us. And the focus is on defeating the lion, the black man. Uh, so we got to talk a lot because you can't have any kind of group of polygamous relationship if the sister does not agree. And there would be some sisters who agree and others who will not, because most of the people look at things from a sexual point of view. And from a sexual point of view, and especially if that's the primary focus of, of the relationship of coming together in the group, that ain't gonna work. Um, but if there is a commitment to develop a strengthen the people, uh, you might get a group that's willing to work together and make that kind of sacrifice. And that's a hell of a sacrifice for a woman, because every woman wants her own man in this society. Maybe in the African side it might have been different, but we're not back there now. We're in an entirely different society. So there may be some sisters who can work together, but 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 that's a whole lot of talking. Now, patrilineal is not an African way of how would I put it? That's not African culture. Um, that's a male dominated culture in which the woman is subordinate to the man in a patrilineal, and heritage is passed down through the male um, side of the family, like the father. Uh, Everything is passed down through his lineage. Um, but on the patrilineal side, really, the female things are passed down through the female's lineage. Uh, So it's a big difference. Women have a lot more say so in the African um, way of the matrilineal. Um, and I lean towards the matrilineal side. I think I think it's needed because I see the patrilineal side is the extermination of the male. um, Simply because there's just so many more black women than there are black men. But I'm just like, I just make my comments on it. Everybody else have to make their comments and bring up the pros and cons, and we have to decide together. For me, I'm 82 years old. If I was younger, I'd have a different attitude. Of course, they ain't Dr. Ben used to say the only thing better than one black woman is two. And that heaven was between a black woman's thighs. And remember, I came up on the Dr. Ben. Um,
I
That's
concur.
why I'm shaking my head.
I I just done got so old. I mean, I can run up to the fence, but I can't jump over. I'm gonna leave y'all alone.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
This is one random question. It could be very short. You don't have to think too much about it. One of the videos that really struck me, because I'm Ghanaian, right? And so you have a video. I think his name is Kwame or something.
Kwame
Opoku. I think it's
Osei.
Opoku. One more
Kwame
time.
Osei. Kwame Osei.
Is he the one that was describing the spirituality of Onyame, God?
I think so. Yeah.
Or yeah, I don't know where to find. So that's his name, Kwame Osei.
hmm
Osei.
Well, Kwame Osei describes the African concept of God,
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
he also wrote a book on the um, the Ghanaian Egyptian lineage, how Ghanaians names and a lot of their language and all of that can be traced back to ancient Egypt. So, yeah.
Thank you. Because his description of um the concept of the creator has been one that I really truly resonate with. And I have not been able to find another Ghanaian to talk about it like that. So that was the first video that hooked me onto your platform. And I knew there was a lot of truth and gems in it. So thank you for answering that.
You're
So we want to be respectful of your time, Minister Brown. We appreciate you being on here with us and shedding so much light on so many important topics for us. Um,
Yes.
so thank you once again, and you know, I hope that we can continue to cultivate this connection because I know that we really learn a lot and take a lot in from these conversations with you.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
Thank you very much.
and
All
like
right.
always, I'm gonna keep watching your videos, liking, subscribing, and sharing for sure, because people need this information.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bed.
Thank
Sleep
you.
well. Sleep
Yes, sir.
well, King.
Thank you. All right.
Lessons.
Peace.
All right. So I guess we can just close it out for everybody that's in here. We appreciate it. Sorry, Cam, we saw your question, but we didn't want to overload Minister Brown. But maybe we can say that for another time. We can bring up and ask that question.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
but yeah, thank y'all for coming and watching and engaging with us. If you like what you saw here, we are gonna try to do this with some more elders. We got a couple on our list that we can do this kind of interview style with, and like we said, we learn so much from our elders, and we know they play such a important role in us, coming towards our liberation. Anything you
So
want to add in, Alma?
No, this is dope. This is I'm new to the team, so this is the first, I guess, official moment of interacting with one of your the programs that we're having. So it was great talking to him. Um,
Definitely.
Definitely some things I would love to discuss that he mentioned. As you know, I had real female over here, so I have my own perspective on things. But I'm very grateful for his perspective. I actually love hearing people's um, take on life and yeah, their perspectives. His is very, you can tell he's been through some things and like very like moments where he was by himself and moments where he was around other people and stuff. So yeah, this is cool.
yeah, just so for those that are still with us, Amma is one of, again, just a quick introduction, one of our members here with Unlocked, and it's definitely going to be a great contribution to the team because obviously, as Minister Brown had mentioned, we can't do this without some feminine energy. If we're all some raindrops of God out here, and we know that we need to be balanced in ma'at, or balanced just in our harmony, reciprocity, and how we are with one another. So honestly, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you, Alma.
Yeah, I'm looking to hopefully get some more ladies to discuss with and just bring the conversation um, to different angles, different perspectives, so that we can talk to ourselves. So yeah,
yeah.
for
To
sure.
make
Yeah.
it an unlocked episode, and it's just you running it, and keep it with just have a whole bunch of queens on here talking. I'll just be in there just chatting. So
And
yeah,
I like that
Facts.
for real. We gotta keep it ma'atic. I ain't never heard
My
nobody say
attic.
it like that. I like that. Ma'atic. That's nice.
I like that. I like that. Who said that? Was that
And
King?
blessings,
God
Darrell.
King?
Just oh,
oh, what happened?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Oh. Well, as brother Darrell has put in there, he's got peace, love, and hair grease.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Like this video, share this video, anybody who you think might enjoy it. This week we will be continuing to read the Miseducation of the Negro on Instagram Live, but we'll also be doing it on YouTube and on Facebook. So we'll be streaming on here. We'll be on Instagram Live as well. So it'll just make it easier for people to tap in. And we'll be reading from chapter. I think we started at chapter 10 or 11. We'll be
I think we'll be chapter 10, reading chapter 10 and 11. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be reading chapter 10 and 11 on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we're gonna try to knock out 2 chapters if we can. But I know we also have Dr. Avandra coming in and reading with us in the session. So that'll bring that balance, more of that balance of masculine and feminine energy into the conversation, which we definitely need.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, oh, you got it, bro.
I was just gonna say that we're looking to collaborate and build these conversations with any of our viewers, any of our community members. So if y'all have discussion topics or y'all want to just come in on a conversation, hit us up and let us know because we can build a conversation around an important topic. And like we do in our book club, just use these important books that we have as a foundation for us analyzing a lot of these topics and putting our solutions into actions. So yeah, definitely hit us up with any ideas that y'all have. We appreciate y'all in the audience watching, just as equally.
Truly, yes, yes. Thank you. We've been reading your comments.
So the way we normally end it out is saying Black liberation through education, put in action, solutions into action, and
Okay.
and I don't know. I would like for you, like, give you the honor to go ahead and would you bless us with your closing?
My type of closing.
Yeah, like just.
Let's see.
Oh no,
I
I
mean,
didn't
I like.
like just coming
Uh,
to create one. I was just saying like I was gonna like with you.
repeat what you just said.
Yeah, letting you be the person to go ahead and close this out.
Okay, so repeat that so that I could try to remember it too. Just that
Got
way.
you. Black liberation through
Liberation through education. Mm-hmm.
put in solutions into actions.
I'm gonna say the first part, and you can say that. How about that? Right? I'll take. Let's balance.
Right.
Okay, cool. So we're out, but gotta say Black liberation through education.
Put in solutions into action.
And I'm gonna add this little thing in there. I know I'm realizing now I was inspired from that phrase. Phrase was inspired by General City, and General City
Yes, sir.
is
I just had to say
African
it. That's why I was
liberation through
laughing.
education.
Black power
Yeah, but he said black liberation through education and confrontation.
and confrontation.
Word.
Yeah.
So we also end off by saying a BB for Hodier. I don't know if you know what that means. Zach could break down what that means, but it really just means African liberation.
Yeah.
I don't know what language though.
We should find out.
I think it was in Twee.
Tweet?
Yeah.
So that,
Tree? A BB for it doesn't sound like there's many different dialects in Ghana, to be very honest. So maybe it could be one of the other tribes, which would be great. I would love to. We'll talk about that later. Try to get that perspective. But yeah, I don't know which tribe that is. But if it's Ghanaian, I'll find out this week.
yeah. Either way, a BB for Hodier.
Word.
A BB for you.
All right, y'all. Peace. Thank y'all.
Peace.
Peace.